Lesson 1. A daily, a weekly, a monthly. Listening. Page 189. Task 1. Listen about British newspapers.
British press. The papers in Britain are divided into two groups, the quality papers and the tabloids. The quality papers are large in size and have detailed articles about national and international events. The tabloids are smaller in size, have shorter articles, and have more pictures. The articles in the tabloids are shorter and about less important events. Sometimes they are about private lives of well-known people. There are daily and Sunday papers. Sunday papers are larger than daily papers. They are national, and that means they can be bought all over Britain. Many papers and magazines are printed in color, and a number of papers produce color magazines as a part of Saturday and Sunday papers. They provide reading material about fashion, clothes, cooking, diet, house and home, motoring, and holidays. They publish sections with articles on travel, food and wine, and other leisure topics. The great number of magazines are published for women. Their bright covers are designed to catch the eye, and they certainly succeed in doing so. There are magazines for motorists, farmers, gardeners, nurses, computer programmers, and many others. There is always something to read.
Lesson 2. Geographical Outlook. Listening. Page 205. Task 2. Listen to Brian.
Okay, let's see. The flag of Ireland is green, white, and orange. Right. Location. It is situated in the northwest part of Europe. To the west, there is the Atlantic Ocean, and to the east is the Irish Sea. Its climate is warm and wet. The biggest city, with more than 1 million people, is Dublin. It is also the capital of Ireland. The Liffey runs through Dublin, but the longest river in Ireland is the Shannon. There are also some large lakes in the inner part. Lough Corrib is the biggest lake. There aren't any high mountains in Ireland. The highest is Carranta Hill. What are the people like? They are very charming, fun-loving, and friendly. They speak both Irish and English. These two languages are official in Ireland. Every year, on the 17th of March, they remember their patron saint, St. Patrick, who died on that day in the year 461. The national symbol of Ireland is the shamrock. Ireland is famous for its writers. There are also many old stories with leprechauns, who are old men, but they are really fairies. Ireland became a member of the European Union in 1973, so I'll have to take euros with me. The history of Ireland could be interesting, but I'm too sleepy to read about it now. I'll do it tomorrow.
Page 206. Task 6A. Listen to the lecture.
Britain and the British. The United Kingdom is a multinational country today, but its people make up a unity. They call themselves British. Everyone who was born in Britain is British. But don't call a Welsh or Scottish person English. He won't like it. Only people from England can be called English. People from Scotland, Wales, or Northern Ireland are not English. They are Scottish of the Scots, Welsh, and Irish. More than 56 million people live in Britain. Many of them live in big industrial cities like London. Manchester and Liverpool, for example, are the biggest industrial cities in the center of England. Other industrial cities are Leeds, Birmingham, Sheffield, and others. Such cities as Plymouth, Portsmouth, and Liverpool are big ports where many sailors and fishermen live. Bristol is not a very large port. It is smaller than others, but it's very beautiful because it's a royal port. Stratford-upon-Avon is a very interesting town and the birthplace of famous Shakespeare. There is a church where he is buried. Everyone in Britain speaks English. But in some parts of Scotland and Wales, people speak different languages as well. The Welsh are especially proud of their language. They like to speak Welsh, to sing songs in Welsh, and when you travel, you can see road signs in Welsh all over Wales. Everyone in the UK speaks English, but they all speak it differently. A Scottish person has to listen carefully if he wants to understand a Londoner or a Welsh person.
Speaking. Page 220. Task 2. Listen.
Have you had a nice evening?
Yes, I've been watching a documentary film on TV
Really? What was it about?
about a sea trip to Great Britain.
A sea trip. I would prefer flying there by airplane.
Sure, it is the fastest way, but if you want to make your visit to Great Britain more exciting, you should choose the other way.
Well, what is it like?
First, you go to Calais by train and then cross the Strait of Dover on a boat, the Channel boat. The English Channel is rather narrow here, only 32 miles wide, and crossing takes only an hour and a quarter. Then you'll see the white cliffs of Dover.
Dover, what is it?
Dover is one of the most ancient ports. Right above the harbor on the cliff stands Dover Castle, called the Key of England.
Really? It sounds interesting. Can you show me the way on the map?
Pages for readers. Page 233. Task 1b. Listen, then read the story.
Nellie Bly. After Janet Cook.
For many years, most women worked only at home. Their job was to cook food, clean house, and take care of children. But in the late 80s, a few women started looking for work outside the home. This made many people angry. One day, a Pittsburgh newspaper published a story that said that a woman should work only at home. Many people who read it wrote letters to the editor. Most of them agreed with the story. But one well-written letter didn't agree. It said that because America didn't use the minds of its women, it was not as strong as it could be. The name at the end of the letter was E. Cochrane. The editor thought the letter was very good. In a newspaper story, he asked E. Cochrane to come and talk to him about a job. To his surprise, it was not a man, but a young woman who came to see him. She said that her name was E. Cochrane, Elizabeth Cochrane. Elizabeth needed a job. She had to make a living for herself and her mother. Her family thought that she would be a nurse or a teacher. But Elizabeth wanted to be a reporter. At first, the editor was against the idea. He tried to say no to Elizabeth, But after he heard her ideas for stories, he said that he would give her a chance. Elizabeth began to write exciting stories. On each story, she put the name Nellie Bly. This name soon became hers. Women reporters for other newspapers wrote stories about flowers and dresses, but not Nellie. She wanted to help poor people. She sometimes went to dangerous places to get the stories she wanted. At first, many readers were upset. They said it was a man's job to write about poor people who had no homes. In the 80s, factories were not safe. When Nellie wrote that factories were dangerous places to work, the owners of the factories became angry. At last, she left Pittsburgh and began to look for a job as a reporter in New York City. Many people in New York City heard of the woman reporter from Pittsburgh, but only one person wanted to give her a job. Joseph Pulitzer was happy to put Nellie to work on his newspaper, The World. To get her stories, Nellie sometimes pretended to be someone else. She lived with poor people, worked in factories, and even had herself put in a jail. This is why readers could believe the things she said in her stories. Although Nellie wrote many stories that helped people, she became best known for her trip around the world. She read Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days, a make-believe story about a man's 80-day trip around the world. Going around the world in only 80 days sounded impossible, but Nellie thought that it could be done. Joseph Pulitzer agreed with her. He gave her money for the trip. On November the 14th, 1889, at 9:40 a.m., Nellie left New Jersey on a steamship. The steamship sailed across the Atlantic Ocean and landed on the south shore of England. From England, Nellie sailed to France. Jules Verne came to greet her and wish her luck. Then she went by train to Italy. Nellie boarded another steamship to travel across the Mediterranean Sea, the Suez Canal, and the Red Sea. Then she went across the Indian Ocean to China and Japan. All along the way, she sent back stories about her trip. These stories were used in the world. Soon, many people learned of Nellie's race against time. Each day, they looked in the world for a story by Nellie. Would Nellie make it? In Japan, Nellie boarded a steamship to cross the Pacific Ocean. When the ship landed in San Francisco, thousands of people were there to greet Nellie. She was filled with joy. Then Nellie crossed the United States by train. Each time the train stopped, hundreds of people were there to meet her. They wanted to see Nellie to believe her exciting stories about the trip. On January the 26th, 1890, at 3:15 p.m., Nellie was back to New Jersey. She went around the world faster than any other person. It took her 72 days, 6 hours, and 11 minutes. And it all started with Elizabeth Cochrane's letter to an editor.